All right, ladies
Guys,
and gentlemen, it is time. It has
we
been
have made it.
99 episodes in the making.
Woo!
It is episode 100 of the Opinion City
Bam!
podcast.
Oh,
I am
man.
King Ralph. He is Parmesan, and we have been your host for the past 99 plus
Oh, man.
episodes because there have been all kinds of
There's been
wrestling
so
with
much
life
happening.
and
So
grappling
much.
with the grooves, and we've done a lot of things, but
A
right
lot.
here, episode 100 of the Opinion City podcast, and
Woo!
we could not be more excited, especially
Super.
because, ladies and gentlemen, we have such an incredible
A
guest.
huge
I
isn't
cannot
the
tell
word
you-
for it.
Huge is not the word. I cannot
Ugh.
tell you personally how excited I am about today's guest, Sean.
So excited.
Let him know. Who do we got?
Man, so if it wasn't for this person, I don't think this podcast would even exist.
It's very possible. Well,
It's
it
very
would not-
possible.
You and I would have never met if not for this person.
Seriously, true
Yes.
story, no joke.
Yeah.
If this person had not created what he did,
Mm-hmm.
me and Ralph may have never met in person, and this podcast may have never even been born. With that said, it is the man of 1,000 holds. It is the owner of Chikara, trainer at the Russell Factory. It is Mike Quackenbush. Episode 100.
Episode
Bam.
100. We are so excited
So
to be talking
hype.
to Mike Quackenbush.
Yes.
He has done so much in the
So
wrestling
much.
industry. A world traveler, a trainer, a coach. He's spent time at the Performance Center, training and coaching, and it's
Does it all.
An extreme honor for us to be able to talk to him today. As Sean mentioned, Sean and I met at a Chikara show. So without that opportunity, we may have never had the opportunity to meet each other. And
I know.
this could not be what it is right now. But we're super excited for episode 100. Make sure you hang around after the interview for a mystery top
Mystery.
5. Yeah, we don't even know what it is.
We don't even know what it is. He didn't tell us.
It is being kept from
Surprise.
us. So for those of you out there who celebrate, happy Easter.
Yes.
And happy episode 100
Woo.
from us here at the Opinion City podcast and Sean. With that being said,
Let's
it is time
go.
to get this episode 100 party started. Ladies and
Right
gentlemen,
now.
Here we go!
all right. Well, we are back.
We
and
are here.
Yes, it is episode
Huge
100.
episode 100. We have made it through, God, trials and tribulations, countless people, but we have made it here
Yes.
with
Very
episode 100's guest, Mike Quackenbush himself, man of 1,000 holds.
Yes. Very excited.
Super excited.
Yeah. So, let's kind of start at the beginning. Obviously, very well known, but for those who may not know you in your own words, who is Mike Quackenbush?
Wow. I suppose if I had to try and sum it up, like we're meeting in an elevator and I've got about 5 floors to explain to you who I am. I've been working in pro wrestling for 31 years now, and I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a wrestler, a coach, a trainer and consultant, a commentator, a promoter, a booker. Written 10 books about professional wrestling.
Woo.
My entire 6-year YouTube journey till we make it is nothing but pro wrestling education.
Mhm.
So I have dedicated / ruined my adult life with professional wrestling.
Sure.
Right, sure, yeah. So, Ralph, my brain just stopped. Hang on.
Well, okay. Let's
Guys,
start.
I feel
Let's
that
start
way
at-
about 5
Yes.
times a day.
Oof. All right. So let's start at the beginning.
Here
Let's
we
talk
go.
about how you got into professional wrestling.
Mhm.
Starstruck.
I came in, as I like to say, I came in through the back door when no one was watching. My first match,
Oh, jeez.
May 20th, 1994, was a combination of things. Our high school yearbook needed a fundraiser, and I
Okay.
happened to be the yearbook editor.
Ooh.
And I said to the vice principal, I said, you know what we could really raise some money with? A pro wrestling show. And eventually enough people bought it that when May 20th rolled around, there I was wrestling in front of 1,100 people in a high school gymnasium.
Mm-hmm.
But when that match was over, I knew from that point forward exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Despite all the protests of parents and guidance counselors, Mike Quackenbush was going to become a professional wrestler. I'm sure my guidance counselor would have strongly preferred that I spent my time at the University of Pittsburgh pursuing a sensible journalism degree.
Sure. Sure.
My mom had very much wanted a dermatologist in the family to ask about those questionable moles,
There you go.
but they ended up with a pro wrestler.
Right.
Very cool. Now you mentioned being an author, and you mentioned the wrestling in high school. This thing right here, if you were lucky enough
There
to
it
get your
is.
hands on a copy of Headquarters, great stories all about your high
Thank
school wrestling journey in there, and
Right, tough to believe that thing's
fantastic
24
read.
years old already.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Right.
That's incredible.
So, speaking
ahead.
of time and speaking of different things, this is King Ralph's favorite question that we ask on the show, because as we tend to find out on the show, he usually is the oldest person that we talk to, or that we talk
Oldest
with,
person in the room.
oldest person in the room. So
Yeah.
for
I
you,
don't know. I might give you a run for your money, Ralph.
so for
I'm
you,
out. Here we go.
let's find out, what is your very earliest pro wrestling memory?
My earliest wrestling memory, unfortunately, is a somewhat negative one.
Oh, geez.
There's a kid in my neighborhood, Kyle Boskowski. I've never been afraid to full name him on people's podcasts.
Okay.
Kyle Boskowski, B-O-C-Z, Boskowski. They would get the big 4 pay-per-views at the Boskowski house,
Mhm.
and they would have free pizza for the neighborhood kids if you came
Wow.
by. So,
Okay.
come on, who's not going over to see that?
Right.
That particular night, they were watching WrestleMania 6,
Okay.
and
Right.
I saw about the first 8 minutes of Hulk Hogan against the Ultimate Warrior, and I thought, this is the dumbest thing I've ever
Oh no.
Why are people into this?
Oh
It's
man.
so dumb.
Yeah.
And they don't even seem to be wrestling. They're just flexing their muscles.
Right.
So I had a slice of pepperoni and I bounced. That's my earliest wrestling memory. King Ralph, what's yours?
Oh, see, I remember back in the day, I had a cousin who was really into wrestling, lived out of state, but every time he'd come in, he'd try to get me to watch wrestling. And I remember, like WWF superstars and Brutus Beefcake wrestling some jobber, but WrestleMania 5 was really kind of where it all started for me. That was the first like big wrestling show I had ever seen. I remember I waited, it was on VHS and I rented it from a video store. Most people listening to this might not know what any of that is, but
Right.
yeah. So WrestleMania 5 was kind of where I really got my start, and then it just kind of took off from there.
I don't know if this applies to everyone on the call, but definitely my early wrestling consumption was limited by what West Coast Video had available for purchase or for rent.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Right?
we
Like
didn't.
the,
We
all
weren't
the
even good enough to have.
WCW and whatnot I saw, it was
Ooh.
whatever they had. And
Right.
Listen,
Right.
we didn't even have a West Coast. We were such a small town. We had an independent little place called Mr. Movie, and they would get wrestling in. But I remember when I was in high school when ECW Barely Legal came out, and one person got a hold of it on VHS, and we passed it around between like 10 of us, so we could all get a chance to see it.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think in the late 90s, I wrestled Mr. Movie Tommy Kessler
Hey.
in rural West Virginia.
wow.
So if that's where you're from, maybe he was also an entrepreneur.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Maybe.
not. I'm from Pennsylvania, so
Right.
yes. All right. So, kind of transitioning a little bit from wrestling career, what made you want to be a trainer and a coach? What made you want to teach others?
I did not. I was
That's
dragged,
2 for 2. That's 2
I
for
was-
2.
I was dragged into it, kicking and screaming,
Yeah.
by reckless youth Tom Carter. When he left the WWF, and he had a developmental deal there in the late 90s, he came back to the area, and he's from like the greater Philadelphia area himself.
Okay.
And he said, I'm so bored with what they are producing up at the corporate level.
Mhm.
Let's do something that really embraces the international styles. And granted, Mexican Lucha Libre had broken through in a big way on the heels of Ray and Psychosis coming to ECW and then jumping to WCW, and then the influx of luchadors. And, you know, although it's not well remembered, the WWF did try to mimic that for a brief period of time
Yeah.
to try and keep pace with the cruiserweight division. It was more of a mess, though, than anything else. But British wrestling had really kind of fallen from what I'll call the wrestling vernacular.
Mhm.
The World of Sport TV program had been canceled in the late 80s and was replaced in the UK by the WWF. It was like they literally overwrote British wrestling history.
Yeah.
And there were these other beautiful international styles out there that just weren't being expressed. And when we first formed the Wrestle Factory in 2002, the thought was, well, let's try to share as much of this with the incoming class of wrestlers as possible.
Right.
Because especially in the case of Tom, my then business partner, I think he saw that as like his exit strategy in wrestling.
Right.
I think training a new class of wrestlers that would carry on his name and his legacy was his exit strategy. He didn't articulate that to me, however. So about 9 months into the Wrestle Factory, when he came to me and said, "Hey, I'm out. How about you just take over now and you run everything?" I was like, isn't there anyone else that could do this, Tom?
Passing the torch.
Right, yeah. Shoving the torch is more like it, Parmesan. I was like, all right. And I remember walking back into the Wrestle Factory. At the time, we were on Linden Street in Allentown behind Bud Carson's Pro Wrestling World.
Oh, yeah. I remember that building well.
A collectible shop in desperate need of a vacuuming. And sitting there were the first two classes of Wrestle Factory students, people who would go on to be Hallowicked, Icarus, Jigsaw, Eddie Kingston, referee Bryce Remsburg. Those guys were all just sat there. And I said, Tom has just quit, and we have a decision to make right now. Either we're going to go on, we're going to move forward together, or maybe we just kind of wrap it up.
Right.
And Eddie Kingston, who's never been shy about sharing his opinion on anything, was very quick to speak up and said, "No, we're here to do this thing. Let's go."
Right.
I think if that meeting had gone differently, a lot of the people now who, you know, they pass through the Wrestle Factory, or, you know, there's a handful of luminaries in wrestling I've trained outside of the Wrestle Factory system as well. I think the top level of wrestling would look very different if we had not been there to train Cesaro, to train Eddie Kingston, et cetera, et cetera. You can just kind of go right down the list of some of our best known graduates. So it was only with reluctance. In the very beginning, I was a lousy coach. It is such a difficult skill. And I don't think I really appreciated that until I had nowhere to run. There wasn't the reputation of reckless youth Tom Carter, who at the time was arguably the top unsigned wrestler in the United States.
Yeah.
I didn't have his name to hide behind anymore. It had to be me teaching these kids. So I had to get good at the job, whether I liked it or not.
Yeah, right. Now, talking about, you know, you mentioning luchadors, you took your nickname Lightning as a tribute to Jushin Thunder Liger. Yeah. What was it about him that made you such a fan?
Yes, and, you know, to be clear, right, Liger's Japanese. Part of what I loved about him was when I first saw him on WCW, it was like a Saturday night show, the 605. He came out with the cape. You know, of course, he has his mask with the horns and the full body suit.
Yep.
It was as close to what I loved about Marvel and DC Comics as possible. And I always sort of took umbrage when people would say, "Oh, well, you know, pro wrestling is just like a comic book come to life." And I would think, what lame comic books are you reading? You think that's what this is? But when I saw Liger, oh, it really clicked in my brain. And the idea that you could kind of be a superhero as your full-time job, that was very attractive to me. He was such a trendsetter, and he revolutionized a style. You know, the work that began with Tiger Mask in 1981 is realized by Liger really by 92. And he was such a source of inspiration for me. He also seemed like the impossible ideal. As a nascent pro wrestler, the idea that I would even be in the same building with him seemed impossible to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the flip side of that story, to have eventually wrestled Liger and then teamed with Liger was as close to like a surreal experience as I could have ever imagined. It defied all expectations.
Yeah.
So in our interview here, we're not going to talk a whole lot about Chikara because we've got about 250,000 questions. But
Right.
that'll be a conversation.
If you
for
got
another
one
day,
or two,
hopefully.
I'm glad to tackle
Well,
them.
listen,
for you.
We do
There
have
is-
one or two here
there
for
is-
you.
there is
There's
one
one
that
big
is-
one
Oh,
that Ralph
there's one that is very important.
Yes.
Something that I talk about all the time.
all the time.
And I bring it up to every Chikara alumni that comes on the show
Mhm.
that I meet anywhere. Like, this is always my topic of conversation. So, can you tell us how the mythos of the Eye of Tyr came to be, and what was the creative part of creating that artifact and its history like? Because I'm fascinated with the Eye of Tyr.
Thank you for that, Ralph. And you're not the only one. I get asked about the Eye of Tyr. I would say it's probably in the top 5 things I get asked about when it comes to Chikara. Like, it's probably right after the Ashes project. I would say the Eye of Tyr is the thing people ask me about the most. It was largely born out of my love of the television series Lost.
Okay.
Lost, has a lot of MacGuffins to it. A lot of J.J. Abrams projects, they have that kind of mystery box sort of thing to them, where there's something loaded with potentially supernatural or magical properties, but
Mhm.
it's not always 100% clear. And I also appreciated how much time and thought they put into building up a backstory for the island and some of the really key elements, the Dharma Initiative,
Mhm.
etc. So, and I don't know how well you remember the details, and I want to tell you, I'm 49. I've wrestled in about 3,000 matches. I was dropped on my head in most of them.
Okay.
So there are some things I have very crystal clear memories of, and without having all my notes in front of me, and I do, I have notes that literally go back to season 1 of Chikara.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
that's incredible.
Without having that in front of me, could I tell you in great specific detail? No, but you might recall we had to go to some lengths to build websites about
Yes.
where the
Mhm.
Eye of Tyr had been sold at auction so that you were able to trace its lineage back at least 3 years before we introduced it into the storyline.
That's
And
amazing.
you were on some kind of college website where there was a group that went archaeology group that
That's right.
found this thing. Yeah.
That's right. We'd actually kind of picked that up from a defunct group. They were abbreviated like the ISRPPA,
Okay.
but it was an actual academic group where if
Wow.
you dug back far enough, they had been published in a couple journals. So it gave further credibility. The fact that the group had collapsed allowed us to very neatly pick up and roll
Nice.
them into our own mythology.
Mhm.
So you're right. We did a lot of, now it probably seems quite quaint, but those transmedia experiences, right, where it kind of jumps from one form to another, was what I loved best about certain viral marketing campaigns, like the way that they marketed a Nine Inch Nails album, I believe it was the Zero album, and then the Dark Knight with the Why So Serious
Yes.
program. The ARG elements of that viral marketing kind of rolled together with the myth making behind several of the key props in Lost is very much how we got to the Eye of Tyr.
Gotcha.
And I realize this is kind of like a very high level discussion of it, whereas, could I tell you exactly where we obtained the gem that we used? And I don't know that I
Right.
remember that exactly.
Sure.
Right.
Toward the end, when it became clear we were going to have to break the Eye of Tyr, we, for the purpose of that, and we really did, we used a gigantic hammer to
Yes.
shatter the Eye of Tyr. We really did destroy it.
Okay, that was gonna be my
Now wait.
that was gonna be
now,
my next
because-
question, because we have talked to many of Chikara alumni, and some people say that it could still be out there
Well,
in the world as it stands, because like Ralph said, and has said on multiple episodes, if you watch the end credit scene when Thunder Frog goes to put the hammer down, before he hits it, it fades to black.
Yeah, we don't actually get to see that. Now, there's that, and then we've heard another rumor from a Chikara alumni that has told us that the secret season, or the lost season, as it were,
Right.
that was taking place in a whole nother timeline, another universe, and something could have come back from that as well. So that's the information we've been given.
I don't know that information is canon, Jen.
Okay.
But what I can say about the Eye of Tyr, incidentally, is, you know, at any one given point in time, we had two identical Eyes of Tyr, because one of them was very fragile, and we were concerned about what would happen. The fragile one is the one that we ended up destroying.
Okay.
The Eye of Tyr, as well as the carrying case for it, the box that it belongs in, is now safely in the possession of a loyal Chikara fan.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And
I'm extremely jealous of that.
Right.
I'll be careful how much to reveal, but part of it is that someone else in their family does not yet know they are in possession of it.
Oh,
And
okay.
they have, month by month, been working their way through every single Chikara show,
Okay.
building up to when she's going to reveal she has the Eye of Tyr.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I'm in full support of that. The patience, and I mean, I love a long game.
Of course,
if you're an avid Chikara fan, that won't surprise you. But the long game there, you got to give it up.
I know, for real.
That's very impressive. Just getting to talk to you about the Eye of Tyr.
Yes, we have been waiting very patiently to bring it up to the source himself. But now, you had mentioned before, you are quite the accomplished author, writing, you know, all those books and publishing many articles in the wrestling scene. Did you enjoy the writing process?
You know, it's changed for me throughout the years. I've written 10 books. I'm currently working on number 11. Hopefully it will be out later this year.
Ooh,
Very exciting.
And I've gone through phases where I feel very prolific as a writer. Certainly a period that was a little more fallow was the really intense years of Chikara. But it wasn't that I wasn't writing. It was just that I was writing in a very different way.
Right.
I was not writing a tutorial book or an educational piece or a how-to guide. My writing was just, you know, in a different vein. Because I loved writing before I loved wrestling, it's always been something very relaxing to return to time and time again. And working on a deadline, you may know I spent 10 years working for Pro Wrestling Illustrated and all of its sister magazines at London Cattle Publishing. There is something about delivering on a deadline that I really did grow to love. That, you know, I get called on a Monday and Stu Sachs would tell me, we need 900 words about Mildred Burke by Friday. Can you deliver? Well, I love that as a challenge. As someone who loves a scavenger hunt, you know, I so love that kind of thing. A scavenger hunt, escape rooms are right up my alley. Give me a challenge to go and research some obscure, weird thing and give me a deadline, I'll get it done. When I'm writing for myself, you know, my own books are often not on a timeline, and they are subservient to my travel schedule. Last year was the heaviest travel schedule I'd had in 8 years.
Wow.
So I would have loved to have gotten the book done to be out for the Christmas shopping season.
Right.
But my schedule just had other ideas.
Right.
So along the lines of your writing career, you and people may know this or may not know this, depending on, you know, how much they follow, but you are a huge fan of the 80s cartoon Mask.
Yes.
And you went on a crusade to write the next Mask comic book for IDW. So tell us a little bit about that and your love of Mask.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And, you know, I'm thrilled. This year is the Mask 40th anniversary.
It is. It is.
Wow.
Right. They are bringing back 4 of the classic toys for release later this year.
Love
Really
that.
like the four most iconic, I think you would argue. Thunderhawk, Rhino, Switchblade, and Condor getting re-released with slightly tweaked and upgraded designs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So, you know, it's always strange as a grown man to be like, I got to put some money aside for the toys
Right.
this summer.
Yeah.
Wow, am I
Right.
buying them? The moment I can get my grubby little hands on them, I'm buying them.
Yeah.
But I love Mask, right? Obviously, there's some hints at that through all my work, including Chikara, right? The first pay-per-view, High Noon, is named for an episode of Mask.
Oh,
And
okay.
the theme song for High Noon is an homage to the Mask theme.
Oh, okay.
A weird coincidence. I happen to be friends with Stan Bush, best known for performing The Touch in the original Transformers
Yes.
animated
Yes.
series.
Yes. So
So
good.
when I called Stan up and I said, we need something really special for this first pay-per-view. And, you know, here are the lyrics. And he's like, how does this work? And I was like, let's listen to the Mask theme song. It's just the Mask theme song. But as you pointed out, Ralph, in 2016, I tried to lobby for IDW to allow me to write the revival of Mask when they landed the license from Hasbro.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to mount enough momentum online that actually I was one of the 10 writers allowed to pitch. So I did pitch my story, but as a first-time comic book writer, I was unlikely to get the gig. And of course, I did not get the gig. It ended up going to somebody else, like an award-winning comic book writer. The series sustained itself just for 10 issues, and that was all. And since then, you know, where the what we might call like the softer license, that is to say for not toys or hard merchandise, but things like books,
Mm-hmm.
where that license has fallen since then is a bit of a mystery. I do know that IDW no longer has it. It
Okay.
seems like it could have gone along with the Transformers and G.I. Joe license, which, forgive me right now, I can't think of the comic book imprint that has it. But they're running the Energon universe. And by the way, if you've not read those books, they're actually quite good. But I have pursued it throughout the years to see if I could get the license myself, to no avail.
Got so close, but so far.
Indeed.
Now, there is a video out there of you that went rather viral among indie wrestling fans. It's from Ignite Philly in 2016, and you gave a speech entitled Wrestling is Art. If you haven't checked it out, we'll link it in the description below. You guys can watch it. But tell us how that all came about and the inspiration behind your words on wrestling.
Yes. So Ignite Philly, which is a TED Talk-like conference, in a very kind of like casual, low-stakes setting. You can probably hear the clinking of glasses at the bar while I'm speaking. I don't know if Johnny Brenda's is still in business in Philadelphia, but that's where it was. It's a much-loved tavern in Philadelphia. One of the curators of Ignite Philly had heard me speak somewhere, and most of the speaking that I do is, you know, usually to groups of wrestlers. So how exactly this fellow heard me speaking, I don't know that piece. But he said, would you be interested to come and speak at Ignite? And I thought, well, yeah, this is a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but it sounds like a fun challenge. And getting outside the box, well, I need to do more of that.
Yeah.
Staying inside my little box all the time isn't always the best thing. So
Right.
I forget what the parameters were. There were a set number of slides. Each one would show for a set number of seconds, and my speech had to be timed exactly to end when the slides end.
Oh, wow.
So it might have been like you had 5 minutes and 25 seconds exactly.
That's so exact.
Yeah.
Exactly. And basically they said, if you go more than 10 seconds over, we're just going to cut you. Like,
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
so not only was
Wow.
it, you know, a matter of like, how do I explain to a room full of potentially tipsy people that don't want to listen to me about pro wrestling?
Sure.
But I've also got to bring this whole thing in on time. The practicing for it was probably the most challenging of any public speaking I've ever done. I've done assemblies in front of middle schoolers. I was far more intimidated to walk up at Johnny Brenda's and try to bring this thing in at 5:25 exactly, or, you know, whatever it was.
Right.
But in the build up to that, as I knew it was coming, one, I asked a lot of the people who'd been with me for quite some time in wrestling. I said, when you've heard me speak, what was the most impactful to you? Like, if I'm trying to pack a punch with what I'm saying here, and somebody would say, "Oh, well, I really love the way you said this thing," or, the way you talk about this, it always really lights a fire under me, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I took inspiration. I took some feedback from people. That night at Ignite Philly, I think I was the 6th or 7th speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this to make fun of the guy, but the guy right before me, his job was to explain to people how words are elected to be included in next year's dictionary.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
everything was so dry. It was very academic. It was
Mhm.
just like, here are the numbers and here are the facts and this is the thing.
Mhm.
And I thought, man, this needs like some fire in it. This thing is dull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if you guys have done a lot of speaking or you get up in front of a group often, sometimes you cannot find that emotional gear for any reason because you don't know the material well enough. Maybe it seems like they're not responding to you the way that you hope they would, right? Like if you drop a joke early and no one laughs, oh man, maybe this isn't going to get over so well. But luckily on that particular night, I was really able to find that extra gear. It really just started to kind of come out fired up in a way that some days you can't quite get there. I think because the emotion feels so raw, that's what propelled that thing to take on the life that it did. And, in the wake of that, I was shocked by the number of people who ended up seeing it. It's directly responsible for me being called by WWE to start doing coaching and then later consulting for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was that 5-minute speech that did it.
Crazy. Just crazy.
That's incredible. So you've also had a number of YouTube video ventures, from content about Chikara to your wrestling advice show Till We Make It, which, as you mentioned, 6 years. That's a
long time.
Impressive. Trying to catch up on your content is a very daunting task,
right?
Because there's so much of it, but there's so many important things that you talk about in there. So tell us a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Till We Make It really followed neatly on the heels of a couple projects that I did right in a row. The first was a podcast called Kayfabe 2.0. It ran for just 34 episodes. And then it all got taken down offline because I had included a clip that was too long of the song "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers.
We've been banned in Russia for the exact same
way
thing.
too many
Not
times.
That song, but very similar.
I thought you were going to say "The Gambler." I was like, what's going on?
Right. That would have been great.
So I thought, all right, this is annoying. The whole thing got taken down. But I was already working on 7 Keys to Becoming a Better Performer, which of kind of like the back half of my catalog is my best-selling book by far.
Right.
I do wonder if it's because it's so short. Wrestlers, can you not read a longer book? It's
Maybe
68 pages. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
easy read.
It really is. So the truth is, probably right around the time that everyone is watching us, the Portuguese version of 7 Keys is about to be coming out. It's been translated into a whole nother language.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I have reread it, albeit not in English, twice recently. And I was like, right, this one reads so much easier than some of my other books. I think that's part of it. But nevertheless, when I was done with 7 Keys and it came out, and I was glad that people liked it, and it was wild to me. For example, the one and only face-to-face meeting I ever had with Triple H, he was like, "Oh, and I loved 7 Keys." And I thought, is this a rib?
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you underestimate the reach of your creative projects,
Yeah.
So as soon as it came out, well, then I thought, I should have included this. Oh man, you know what? I should have included that. And so I thought to myself, what's the next thing? And I thought, I consume a lot of YouTube. When I need a question answered, I'm more likely to watch a YouTube tutorial than I am to read an article or something like that.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I'm doing that, certainly other people are turning to YouTube for answers to their questions.
Sure.
So why don't I make a list of all the things that I think a newly minted pro wrestler, or maybe just someone who's like, I just started training, that they would want to know the answers to. And the very first thing I wrote on my list was how to wash your wrestling gear.
Yes.
Well, as I worked my way down, I eventually came up with 48 ideas. And I thought, well, man, if I thought 7 keys was enough, 48 videos
Right.
is over.
Yeah.
48
Right.
is way too many. But I thought it'll probably take me 6 to 9 months. I'll have all 48 of them done, and then that project's over, and I'll move on to the next thing. I really did not imagine that like a whole era of my wrestling career would be defined by Till We Make It.
Right.
Well, now here I am 800 plus videos later.
Woo.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, the reality is, like last year is a great example. I was out all over the world teaching and wrestling. And
Yeah.
I think of, you brought up the magazine era of my career. There's certainly like a slice of it, which is Chikara. People look at my career in kind of like different chunks and phases. It really wasn't until last year when I was at the very bottom. Like I was in the south of Chile, the closest to Antarctica I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people there, they only know me as the Till We Make It guy.
Nice.
A generation of wrestlers out there, they don't know what a Chikara is. And they've certainly never picked up a magazine in their lives, but they all know Till We Make It.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So even though I intended this to be a very short-term project for myself, it has taken on a life of its own, and it has connected me to the youngest generation of wrestlers in a way I would not have predicted. So
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me. Like I said about the books, or every once and again, I still come across, if I'm out doing like a meet and greet or a signing, someone will show up with like a magazine article I wrote 25 years ago for me to sign.
Wow.
Yeah.
But certainly the thing moving the needle these days is Till We Make It.
Yeah.
It
For sure.
shocks me.
That's awesome.
So, talking about the Russell Factory a little bit, they have landed a new home, leaving the streets of Philadelphia for the bustling metropolis of Copley, Pennsylvania.
Copley. Yeah, I always say
Copley.
Copley.
We never
and
know
my
how to
wife
say
gets-
it. We always,
my wife gets very upset.
I think like Coldplay.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
Right.
Anyway,
I think you're right.
anyway, talk to us about this iteration of the factory and its current training staff.
Absolutely, right. So we moved out of Philadelphia about 3 years ago. We were on Wingate Street, and I really knew that it was time for a change when, unfortunately, the city of Philadelphia has gone through a very challenging period of time.
Yes.
And we had a potential customer who said, I would love to train with you. I love the facility. I love the culture here, but I don't feel safe coming into Philadelphia to train with you.
Wow.
And the fact that a customer would not come to us because of where we were located was a real wake-up call for me.
I'm sure, yeah.
So, obviously, if you've been to our facility where we're back in the Lehigh Valley now after all these years in Copley, just outside of Allentown, it's an idyllic suburb. I don't think at any point you would feel unsafe there.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
No.
Exactly. Right? It's
Yeah.
quite the opposite of what we were getting quite used to. We were on Wingate Street for 8 or 9 years, maybe, if
Mhm.
memory serves. A lot of that time went by in a blur. And I'm sure maybe you feel the same way. Everything pre-pandemic feels like a lifetime ago.
Seriously.
Um,
Without
I,
a doubt.
I had no grays in my beard before
Right.
the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Right.
We're in a very cozy space right now, back home in the Lehigh Valley, where the Wrestle Factory started 23 years ago.
Yeah.
It's also where my grandfather's general stores were, going back now more than 80 years.
Wow.
So there's also a little bit of family roots there in the Lehigh Valley, and all my aunts and uncles still live there anyway. Nevertheless, I feel really lucky that we have a well-rounded coaching staff, including, certainly if you're a longtime Chikara fan, Oleg the Usurper is
Yes.
familiar to you. And one of just like the most overlooked prospects of our local scene for many, many years, Danny Danger.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Danny, both these guys, incredibly talented, incredibly versatile, and neither of them really get their flowers the way that they deserve for what
Sure.
they do.
Mhm.
I had an opportunity to work side by side with Oleg for many, many years. He came to an audition that I was doing, and he just stood out from the entire group, like a beacon. I couldn't wait to collaborate with him. And in the case of Danny Danger, how he stayed off the radar for as long as he did, I'll never understand.
It's crazy.
Like,
It's crazy.
just bursting with talent. So I feel very, very fortunate. In addition to which, we've even further bolstered by having a referee. So referee Larry Peace, who's got more than 20 years experience in the business, helping shape referees. And there are few guys out there that do it as well as Larry. When the bell rings, nobody understands that game quite like he does. So I feel very, very fortunate that my staff at the Wrestle Factory augments, what I bring to the table, because no coach can cover all the bases.
Sure.
I have my strengths, but I also have my weaknesses as a coach. And the same is true of every single person on my staff and every coach ever. With that kind of coverage, though, we can kind of make sure everything's got adequate coverage. That makes a well-rounded staff, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Well, and I've had the opportunity to spend some time there, seeing the training and everything that goes on there. And I think what's great about your training staff is that you don't just have guys that are talented in the ring. You have genuinely good people working for you. I mean, I really mean that. Genuinely good people working for you. So I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah, it really is. I think wrestling's grown up a whole lot in recent years, and we've got to be real careful to never repeat the mistakes of the past. Surrounding yourself with the right people, it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Mike Quackenbush, you're extremely busy. You've got all kinds of things going on. You're a world traveler. But when Mike Quackenbush has some free time, which I'm sure is very, very low, do you even know what
is that?
Yes. So what are some things that you enjoy in your life outside the world of wrestling?
Well, throughout the years, I've gone through phases where I've had kind of like interests that lead me into new business ventures. So I spent a couple of years really learning everything about real estate. I learned just enough to know, wow, I don't know anything about this, and I should not be doing this anymore. I love immersive experiences. I know I mentioned escape rooms before. I've dabbled in the escape room business. And I don't know, depending on when you might have been a Chikara fan, did you have an opportunity to play the Golden Opportunity Caper when we had it?
I did not. I was unable to make it, but I was very disappointed that I missed that because I heard great things.
I believe we only ran it for 4 weekends. It was in August, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. But it was an immersive experience themed after an escape room where you basically had the entire Wrestle Factory, including the ring, at your disposal.
Wow.
So it perhaps it did not quite find its market, we should say. It was not a raging success.
Right.
But seeking those kinds of things out, like it doesn't matter where I'm going in the world. If I can go find an escape room to play, I'll absolutely go and do that. I love getting out to see live music or live comedy, any chance that I get. But as you rightly mentioned, man, free time is a luxury.
Right.
Now you mentioned music there. I have to bring this up. You were very vocal on social media when Michael Nesmith passed away. I am also a huge Monkees fan. From the very first concert I ever saw was the Monkees.
Really? Was it back in the mid-'80s revival?
No, it was at the Bloomsburg Fair in the mid-'90s.
Huh.
Yeah, it was the very first concert I ever saw. But so do you have a favorite Michael Nesmith song?
Yeah, I absolutely do. On his album, And the Hits Just Keep On Coming, is a track called Two Different Roads.
Okay.
And it is almost like a personal mantra to me, this song. I love it dearly. I only ever met Nesmith face-to-face once.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to tell him directly the impact that it had had on me. Shortly thereafter, we'd agreed to make a podcast together.
Oh, nice.
And we recorded the first 3 episodes. They are still right here in a folder on my Mac, unedited, unvarnished, unpolished to this day. I don't know what I'm going to do with them.
Yeah.
But his passing hit very, very hard. And
right.
There's a great podcast about his musical legacy by a guy named Brian Marchese, Questions But No Answers. If you don't listen to it, I would highly recommend it.
Gotcha.
But it's I know how strange this probably sounds, but like it has been key to like dealing with my grief over his passing, because there is no celebrity type figure I know more about than that man.
Right.
Everything he ever made impacted me in some way, shape, or form. And him no longer being on the planet is still something I'm coming to grips with. I realize that probably sounds absolutely absurd, but I mean it very sincerely.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. The Monkees have very specific sounds, but to me, what am I doing hanging around? That song just hits me every time I hear it. Like there's something to the like just the realness in his voice. It calls to me.
Right.
Right. And even though that's written by Michael Martin Murphey, I prefer the Nesmith sung version.
Yeah.
Like that one hits harder than the original.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to bring us to our final question of the interview before we hit your mystery top five.
Top
We've
five.
not been informed of ahead of time.
We have been told it's a surprise.
So, Sean, why don't you take it away with our final question?
So we've talked about all things Mike Quackenbush today, and some wrestling, some Chikara. So to sum it all up for us, what does pro wrestling mean to you, and what is the significance that it has had on your life?
Well, to paraphrase Ignite Philly 16, pro wrestling is the most dynamic art form out there. There's nothing quite like it. And once it kind of wraps itself around you, it does not let go. Your love of it may see its ebb and flow, and yet if it finds its way into you, it never fully leaves. And there's always a piece of it waiting for you to go back and discover. Being out there as much as I am now, I often come across people that they've been doing this for several years, whether could be fans or could be people working inside the industry, and they often reflect this kind of thing to me. Oh, today's wrestling, it's not really for me. I loved it in this era, or I loved it in that era. And I don't doubt that, right? There's an era of wrestling I love, even though if I went back and watched it with my analytical eyes, I would think to myself, is this really all that good?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Repo Man wasn't all that.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
oh, listen, Repo Man was no Max Moon.
No.
You're preaching to the choir here, boys. But it will always be there for you to go back and re-experience and love. And I think if you really do check out what's going on out there, there are always pieces of the classics, because the guys that I grew up loving have inspired the generation of people that are in the ring now.
Sure.
It always finds a way back, or perhaps you always find your way back to wrestling. I can't imagine what I would be doing if I wasn't working in wrestling in some way, shape, or form. It is as central to my identity as anything else. I don't know if I answered the question, but I stand on my answer.
I think you did.
I think you nailed
Good
it.
job. Yes. All right. So it is now time. 5. Whoop. Look at
We
that.
just went crazy.
Yep.
Surprise.
All right.
I didn't expect that on today's
that was,
show.
That was impressive. Wow, we
That was
did
good.
Quite a number there. All right. So, what have you got for us in top 5 list?
Mystery top 5.
Guys, I am delighted to be counting down with you the top 5 Easter candies you hope to find in your Easter basket.
Oh my God.
This
Love
might be
that.
this might be one
So-
of my
So apropos.
Oh,
So
that's great.
timely. So timely. We love
I
this.
love it.
I'm so
All right.
excited.
Okay.
So, number 5, and I'm going to hope you're instantly going to know. You're going to think of everything related to a robin's egg.
Oh,
They
yes.
come in pastel colors. Right? It's like a malted milk ball. They're not very different, I guess, maybe from like Whoppers or something like that.
Mhm.
But there's something about the Easter egg color
Yes.
on those bird
Right.
eggs.
Right.
I was recently at the doctor's office, and they had a bag of robin eggs at the front desk, and I had heard them mention that the doctor that I was seeing did not like robin eggs at all. So we had
Oh.
words about that when we during the visit.
I thought you were going to say they prescribed robin eggs.
Right,
to you.
right.
And I was
No,
like,
yeah,
I need to change providers.
They did offer them to me, so that was
Oh, of
awesome.
course. Right.
Yes, you got to share.
I think part of the allure is there is a very particular smell to opening a brand new bag
Yes.
of robin eggs. Nothing
Yes.
else matches that
Yeah.
scent.
No.
Wow, love it.
Number 4 on the list, and I want to be a little generic here, but I'll mention a specific one. Jelly beans at Easter are great, but in recent years, I've become addicted to the Starburst jelly bean.
Oh,
They are
yes.
You have
so
a
good.
jelly
So
bean
good.
preference?
Yes.
Yes.
I do like the Starburst.
Same.
I am a fan of the old school Brock's brand of jelly beans. That was always a big brand growing up in Pennsylvania. So I
Absolutely, it was.
because again, like you said, that makes me think of Easter baskets and
Right, yep.
Sunday morning and getting your Easter basket and just that just reminds me of Easter.
Are
Awesome.
either of you Jelly Belly guys?
I was a Jelly Belly guy.
Yeah. So, what was your
Yes.
favorite?
Oh God, I was one of those kids that just grabbed a handful and just shoved it in my mouth. I didn't discriminate from like a specific flavor. I was just like handful jelly beans.
I always thought that I always thought that popcorn was the most impressive because it always tasted like real popcorn. That always amazed me.
The popcorn jelly bean, as well as what's number 1 on the countdown, I feel this way about. I only need one a year.
Right, right.
Okay.
Just
Popcorn
one.
I'm over it.
Just one.
Yeah.
That's it. So number 3 on the countdown. This always got me excited on a Sunday morning. The peanut butter egg by Reese's.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. I'm such a sucker for Reese's. I love everything and anything Reese's. Yes, yes, yes.
My wife will be super happy that you had that on the list because she's
Right.
all about that.
Yes.
And I think you can go 2 ways on it. I put it in the refrigerator for like
Yes.
half an hour
Yes.
because I don't
Yes.
like melty and soft.
No,
Mhm.
no.
Wow.
Or
I
freezer.
love it.
Or freezer if you want it
Is it
like really
freezer?
cold.
Mhm.
But you
Oh,
in the
that's the
freezer
way
for
to
like
go.
10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's good to
Yeah.
go.
The way to
That's
go.
where it's at, guys.
Yeah.
Number 2, I want to be specific.
Okay.
It's the chocolate bunny where the eyes are also candy.
Right.
Yo,
yes.
okay.
Yes. Okay.
Not
Right.
like there's
Yeah.
somewhere there's not. It's just the chocolate and like it's too much. It's too much of the same thing.
Right.
Or I remember at least once as a kid, I got one. It had like a carrot in its hand that was candy as well.
Oh.
Did you ever get one
Oh,
of these?
even better. No,
Ah,
that's
cool. Yeah.
that's impressive. Yeah, that's good.
Wow.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Number 1, I'm ready to court some controversy. As
Oh, here
I
we go.
said,
Uh-oh.
I think you can eat one per year. That's
Okay.
it. But God, I love a Cadbury cream egg on.
Oh my
burger.
God.
Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely, man.
It is
It is
all
a
about.
pastime. Especially the fact that even now they will play the old '80s ad
Yeah.
about the cream eggs.
Yes.
Even to this day, they have not made a new one in like 30 years, but it's the same one from 30 years ago, and it's amazing every single time to watch it.
If there was a grand championship for Easter candy, that would be the grand champion.
Right.
I have always enjoyed, and this is just a personal preference. I've always enjoyed the Cadbury mini eggs.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Those
very
two.
good.
Yes.
And we were at Sam's Club and they had giant bags of
The
these,
huge
and
bags. Yeah. The
I
huge
was like,
bags.
this is a lot to spend on candy. But my wife was
Right.
like,
What does a big bag of that go for?
about $17.
Jesus.
It's almost
Fertilize your garden with that.
listen. It's almost
Right.
as expensive as real eggs.
Seriously.
So
That's pretty bad.
But my wife was like, "When are you ever going to see this again? You might as well get it." So I did, and that was good. That kept me satisfied. But wow, what I mean, and the
That's
fact
an
that
incredible, surprising list.
yes, the fact that you kept that secret and surprised us with it was phenomenal.
Outstanding.
Yes, very good. Well, I got to tell you now. Obviously, I want to thank you for your time and coming
Yes.
on the show. It's a
Seriously.
big deal for
thank
us. A great way to celebrate our 100th episode.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. 100 episodes. That's epic.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been
Crazy.
It's been quite a run. We have our 2-year anniversary coming up in May,
Right around the corner.
and there may be some Wrestle Factory involvement in the celebration, but
Mhm.
our 100th is a big deal, and
Yes.
not only just having you on for the show, but being able to have this conversation with you for me personally means a lot, because wrestling is wrestling, and we all know what we love, but Chikara was a whole nother animal. Like Chikara wasn't it's not that it wasn't just like other wrestling. It
No.
was a home for people. And
It
not
really
just the
was.
wrestlers. It was a home for the fans. When you went to a Chikara show, you felt a part of something special. You guys treated the fans with the utmost respect. The fans were involved and in on everything, even up to including the point where, you know, everyone would stand at the door and greet the fans as we were leaving. You know, everything about it was just an experience, a 5-year time in my life that I look at as some of the greatest days I've ever had. You know, it gave me lifelong friends. It gave me a podcast host who has become like a brother, part of the family. And all of that is because of what you did with Chikara. So I just personally want to thank you for that. It meant a lot.
Well, thank you very much. I'm touched by that. And, you know, I'm really glad to hear the profoundly positive impact it had on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you for your time. It's been great getting to celebrate episode 100 with you. Hopefully, you know, we'll be able to talk to you again at some point, and we can go through some of the many questions we ponder.
Our 250 questions about Chikara.
Yes. If you would have seen our original rundown, boy, did we have to.
We have questions.
It was a long list, but we thank you for your time. It's been great talking to you, and so happy that we could have you here for the 100th episode.
Absolutely.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks so much for asking me.
Right. Well, that is going to do it for our 100th episode interview with Mike Quackenbush. We're going to take a short break, and we will be back in just a few moments. All right, and we are back. Make sure you go back and check out our episode 99 exclusive interview with Keith Elliott Greenberg, wrestling historian, author extraordinaire. Make sure you go out and check out his brand new book. Pick that up. That's available now wherever you get books. And then make sure you stick around for next week's episode. We've had him on the show, I believe, now 4 times, yet never a full episode. So he is going to be joining us for an actual full episode. So make sure you stick around for our exclusive interview with Drew Gulak. That one's going to be pretty special. And of course, check out all the other great content we have on the channel. We've got a video that is rapidly reaching 400 views. We've got a couple that are rapidly reaching 300 views, 200 views. So you know, help those videos get there if you can. And yeah, check out everything we've got there. Obviously, you know, this is episode 100, so there's 99 other great episodes to watch if you haven't seen them yet. But there's all kinds of other stuff on the channel as well. And also, just a reminder, you know, we are on the road to 200, so don't forget to come back first weekend in May. That is officially our 2-year anniversary. We will have an episode that week, and we may even and this is just something I've been thinking about recently, but we may even do a little separate video kind of celebrating 2 years of the show. So definitely look out for that as well.
That's right.
Sean, it has been a tremendous time doing these episodes, doing this show.
Yes.
The fact that we're at 100 episodes right now, and
it's crazy.
Some of the people that we've gotten to interview, you know, and even besides the 100 episodes, you know, we've got Wrestling with Life, we've got Grappling with the Grooves, we've got all the interviews that we've done at different events, and just all the people that we've been able to talk to over this time doing this show has just been incredible. And I have a feeling that the next 100 episodes are going to be just as crazy. We've got some really great episodes,
Really good ones coming down the
up.
pipeline.
Yeah, and we've got, listen, and it's not just us. We've got a lot of people saying, "Hey, we want to come on the show. We want to talk to you."
Right,
you know,
right.
So it's an exciting time to be a fan of Opinion City. Of course, we could not have done these 100 episodes without the support of our fans, the support of our Patreons who have been very diligent in keeping up with us. The rest of the Opinion City family, Kenny P stepping in, Adam the Guy stepping in, coming on and helping us out with stuff. You know, my wife Sonia for filming at events with us.
Camera woman.
Yes, our makeshift camera woman. She got inducted into that. But I mean, we want to thank the folks at the Monster Factory. We want to thank the folks at Bell to Bell Wrestling. We want to thank the folks at Royalty Wrestling, Labor of Love, LVAC, Power Pro Lucha, CZW, yes, being invited to a CZW show. Like these people have embraced us, and we have embraced them as well. And it has been really fantastic. We've been able to do 2 different Monster Factory months. We've done a Bell to Bell month.
Yep.
We've done interviews at shows. We got some great stuff coming up with some of these organizations. We're looking at doing pre-shows, and there's a lot coming up. So just make sure that you stay tuned to the channel so you don't miss anything. Oh, the watch-alongs. Yes, the watch-alongs. We did the first one. We'll have another one, and it's becoming a routine now. That we're doing these watch-alongs. It's becoming a thing. So that's been a lot of fun too. Just being able to sit down and watch some wrestling with different folks who were there and involved. It's been great. Everything that we have gotten to do over this last 100 episodes. I think for the most part we've just about checked off my bucket list. There might be 1 or 2 names yet that are still out there, but for the most part, we've nailed a good chunk of my bucket list. Of course, we want to thank Ultimo Ant, our first ever guest.
Yes, our very first
on the
guest.
show.
Number 1.
Back before we did video, and then when we finally switched over to doing episodes on YouTube, Big Dan Champion was our first video interview. So some history making there. Episode 50 was episode 50 was Mr. Anderson. And the one-year anniversary was John Alba with a little surprise call-in from Matt Hardy.
That was unplanned.
Unplanned,
was not planned. It could have been better if we tried.
The good Lord was smiling on us that day because the moons aligned and the 7th sun was in retrograde. I don't know, but something happened along the way. But yeah, again, we just want to thank all the fans out there. We've been going to shows recently, and we've been meeting people who come up and tell us, "Hey, we watched the show. We love the show. Keep up the good work." And it's hard for me sometimes to think about this as like, what we've actually done here over the last, soon to be 2 years, 100 episodes, multiple shows, the stuff we got to do WrestleMania week.
Incredible. For me, how I did that weekend wasn't just Euphoria and Russell John, but for us, it was getting to walk into WWE World for the first time and see like the giant store, all of the interactive displays and all the interactive things we can do, and the photo ops, and it was just such a cool, incredible experience to be able to do that with you, as well as and also it's out there. I don't know, it's not out there, but like it's out there somewhere on our phones. The epic climb up the Rocky Steps by one King Ralph.
We may have to put that online at some point, because there's 2 versions of that video. There's the one with me running and doing the two-way filming on my phone.
Yeah, and then
there's
there's
me
mine from
filming
behind you.
behind. Oh man, that was something else. And just getting to see the Rocky statue, and
Yeah.
that was such a cool thing. And just really feeling like we were a part of things. We
Yeah.
were on the local news.
Yeah, we were on the news.
Yeah, I mean, it just feeling that we were part of things. Attic Brewing was completely accommodating to everything.
Mhm.
Sweet Lucy's Barbecue in
was
Philadelphia
amazing. Yeah.
let us come in and film some stuff there, some content for WrestleMania. And to be honest, I mean, Sweet Lucy's Barbecue has quite the history in professional wrestling, as
Indeed,
it was.
it does. Indeed.
It was the stomping grounds of Chikara wrestlers after shows.
Mhm.
It was the stomping ground of one Nick Gage before
Nick Gage.
well, before a Chikara show, and not even being there for wrestling, just going to Sweet Lucy's. Like there was nothing he was in town for but Sweet Lucy's. So
Right.
big shout out to them. Always love hitting them up and getting some barbecue when I'm in the city. But just I don't know, things I never would have done in my entire life. People
Right.
I would have talked to. I mean, I go places now, and I mean, some wrestlers knew me from the Chikara days, but
Right, of
we go
course.
now, and like wrestlers recognize us, and people that have been on the show like are excited to see us, and we chat
Right.
it up. It's just, it's I guess when I started all of this, at first it was just kind of us getting a chance to talk about wrestling, but then
Right.
once we decided we wanted to start doing guests, I started contacting all the good folks I know from my days as a fan at Chikara,
Right.
and that made up a lot of our stuff at the beginning. But at that point, it really became about introducing the people behind the wrestler.
Right.
We wanted to really get to the person behind the wrestler, and then as this thing continued, and we started getting opportunities to talk to more and more indie people, now it's becoming like, okay, these are people that may not have ever had a platform to speak
Right.
before. We've had
Right.
people have their very first podcasts right
Mhm.
here on the show.
Yep.
And I think, our show is very different than other shows.
Mhm.
We try not to steer into negativity at all. We try
Never.
to
Never.
have a good time. When we get done with a show and a guest tells us that, man, that was really fun, I had a good time. Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
everything to me.
That's all we
because
want.
that's
That's all we
what-
want.
That's what it's all about, coming
wanna
on
have
here,
fun.
having a good time. And again, we cannot say enough about the fans that have supported us. We cannot say enough about the wrestling companies that have supported us. We cannot say enough about the guests who have continued to support us and be
Right.
amazing for this entire 100 episodes. And I think I've rambled on long enough now. I'm sure there will be more rambling to do when we hit 2 years. So, so I think that's going to about wrap it up here for episode 100 for
Mhm.
the Man of 1,000 Holds, Mike Quackenbush, the man who's responsible for Sean and I meeting.
Yes.
and giving us his time today. For Mike Quackenbush, for Parmesan, I am King Ralph. And remember, kindness is free, so be kind to each other. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you again next time.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very